going over now to Frank Gambino joining us on the line, but also with Frank Gambino, proud to introduce to everybody UW Athletic Director Tom Burman, because we've got to talk about, gentlemen, getting together for sports. And Frank, you and I had a long conversation about this yesterday, like high school sports, wrestling. How do you even do that? And we've had some other experts on about full contact sports and partial contact sports like basketball. So, Frank, Tom, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Tom, how do we do this when we come back together? And when do we come back together?
Very carefully and very, so I don't want to call it slowly, but very thoughtfully. It's complex and it's changing, and to think that we are going to have a vaccine in the fall is unrealistic. So we've got to put a strategy together to test and retest and make sure that that people are safe. And it's not, as you guys know, preaching to the choir, it's not really so much about the risk of the student athlete, high school kid, college kid, because they're probably going to be fine. I mean, the statistics bear out. Most of them are asymptomatic, and even when they have symptoms, they usually recover quickly. But they take it home, and they take it to school, and that's the fear we've got to work through. That's the biggest challenge.
Tom, we were one of the first schools to announce that you're going to bring students back for in the summer for voluntary workouts. Can you tell us some of the protocols that you're going to have once these kids get back on campus?
Yeah, it's pretty extensive. I mean, we've spent an immense amount of time preparing and working with we have a doctor on staff here at the UW Athletics Department, and he has worked with his counterparts around the country. We have worked with the conference, the NCAA medical team, among many others. Bottom line is we will bring kids in phases all summer long. So the first phase will be roughly 80 student athletes. They will arrive on June 1. They will immediately go into a quarantine phase on campus, and they will also, on the third day they are here, they will be tested for the coronavirus. They will be swabbed and tested, and obviously if any is positive, we will deal with that accordingly. We are hopeful that none will be, but there's a possibility that somebody will be. We'll deal with that accordingly. So they'll all be tested. Then as we develop a workout protocol and a protocol during the summer, the plan right now is student athletes will be segmented in groups of 10, and they will have times to work out in one facility, the High Altitude Performance Center. They will come to one entrance every day, wait outside. They will be met by someone on our sports medicine team who will take temperature, ask them a handful of questions about where they've been, who they've been around, what they've been doing. If they pass all those tests, they will be allowed to enter the building. They'll be wearing masks, and they will work out. And then that facility will be absolutely cleaned, and another group of 10 will come in. This will go from 6 in the morning till 7 at night, all day long, until we feel like we can expand the number of student athletes per group. So that's kind of the plan as we go forward. We are absolutely committed to wearing masks. It will be a requirement around here. We will clean at a level never seen before.
Well, let me ask you something about that, Tom, because I have a question that was actually meant for the high school superintendents we had on earlier, but I've got to ask you about this because you're talking athletes here, and they're going to have to, when they get done, clean themselves up. You're talking custodial workers coming in to clean the showers, to clean the bathroom areas. Those people will be at high risk, you would think, right?
Yes, and they will be tested. When we test our student athletes, we are going to test about 30 others who are what we call in close contact. So coaches, sports medicine, people that are cleaning that building, et cetera. And we have acquired some PPE for our sports medicine staff because that is probably one of the most crucial areas. We can't have a rash of positives in our sports medicine team, and all of a sudden we lose those people because we can't replace them. They are the key. So we're very paranoid to make sure we take care of them. But you're right. We're going to test everybody initially, and then we're still working through the plan, but there's going to have to be some level of continued testing for staff and student athletes during the summer as well.
Tom, can you give us some encouraging signs that maybe you'll have a full football season in the fall?
I would say this. The only way I'd say it's encouraging is everybody in the country that I have spoken to and most of the conferences, that is their goal. So we all have the same goal. We're going to try to play 12 games. But obviously, if at some point one of the schools that we're playing isn't following proper protocol or isn't testing or isn't contact tracing or isn't providing a safe experience, we may not go, or we may not let them come here. Or if there's a rash of COVID-19 positives in a community, we may choose not to go. And the same could be in the case of Laramie. So there's no guarantees. And as I've said many times on conference calls that I've been on, if we're going to play sports and we're going to bring students back to school at UW, we have to have some level of comfort with risk, because you can't do this without risk and you can't do it without exposure. What we're trying to do is limit those risks and limit those exposures and try to manage them to the best of our ability.
Well, Tom, let's talk about the level of risk here, because it's one thing to say, hey, we're going to bring back tennis. Tennis is socially distancing. There's even a net between them. But then again, what about wrestling? Do you bring that back?
The plan right now will be to bring wrestling, just like our plan is to bring football. But in a sport like wrestling, you have to have a very thoughtful, diligent testing protocol. I mean, right now, I can tell you it's kind of an interesting concept that we're looking at. It's very expensive, and that's one of the great challenges. We believe that for those kind of sports, there has to be rapid testing available the day before a competition or the day of. So if we have a wrestling match with Oklahoma State in Stillwater, our wrestling team would probably be tested in Laramie at some point, and then they would fly to Stillwater and be tested again. And if they're clean, they go out on the mat. But and that mat obviously has to be disinfected at a level we've never done before. So there's a lot of things that have to happen. But the plan is to try to manage it. If we can't, we will cancel sports selectively. The only sport that's really, if we don't have football, we probably don't have anything, because football is going to drive the revenue to pay for all these other sports.
Tom Burman, UW Athletic Director, thank you for coming on. Frank Gambino from our own sports department. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on. You have a good afternoon.